I feel like right here, now that you're with me, I get to tell you a story that may have never been told, but in my mind it is true. And the fact that it's never been told and in my mind that it is still true, it gives me great honor to hear people say they've never heard of this before. People say, what the hell are you talking about? Are you out of your mind? And it's like, oh my good golly, if what I witnessed was true in my mind, I can only hope that I'm out of my mind. I can only hope that it was an illusion. I can only hope there aren't things walking our fine, fair earth that Mother Nature would allow to hurt us. I'm going to read a story. This is a Judas reading. And you should know with this story, the closer you come to death, the closer death comes to you. This is part 3 of something that I'm reading out of a journal that I took when I traveled from San Jose back to Gaylord, Michigan 1 year, right before, I was on break. I took a goddamn sabbatical, and I learned that the most annoying sound in the world has nothing to do with Jim Carrey. It's being on a motorcycle for thousands of miles and just hearing, you're going to lose your mind a little bit by the time you get there. But this was early in the trip. It was probably within just 2 days of leaving San Jose. I was running to Carlin, Nevada, and this is where this all started. I will start with the part where I think there's probably a serial killer with his wife and a friend that were going to abuse me, and I knew better than to stick around. So I think I can start the story right after I left them at the gas station, like around Carlin, Nevada somewhere. It's written in a little fat notebook that I took with me. And I used to be good at writing things down, because it doesn't matter if the story is entertaining. There's always a hint of your life that you leave behind when you write. So the children, grandchildren, people who they may even save some of this stuff, if you ever have a kid, to share it with the great-great-grandchildren and say, this is what it was like. That's why I haven't had kids. I don't want anybody to really share what it was like. And they'll just get beaten up in school because all the rules have been changed. But there was something I was looking at that. Page 20. Asked her, she told me no. I was leaving a gas station and there was a motel on the way out that I faked like I was going to. And I don't know why I didn't write it in here, but when I faked I was going to that motel, I was thinking about staying there because I had to get away from this fucking thing. It's not about fear or not being able to take care of yourself. It's about intuition. Sometimes if something doesn't seem right, you need to get the hell out of there. And I have never suffered leaving a situation I didn't feel right about. Who knows? It could have been the best thing that ever happened. but I don't suffer it because I don't have any bad memories lost. All I remember is how something just didn't seem right. You should get a hold of me. We'll go on vacation sometime. And so I'm going to start reading from this. It's going to take a while. This is actually, it's like the third reading that I'm doing out of this trip across the country on a motorcycle. People like motorcycle rides. They like the stories that go along with them. But I'm going to start reading somewhere after I left the gas station to get away with this knuckle fucker that said he didn't want to do defiance on me. And I'm like, you mean deliverance? He's like, ha 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 ha. Oh, okay, I got to get out of here. One of my catchphrases. It's done me well my whole life. And make a decision. I saw the motel next to the bar as I was heading toward the on-ramp. It was getting dark. I was ready to give up on camping. I came right back out, got on my bike, that was pulling out of the parking lot. Sonny was driving by. See, when I pulled up to that motel, I said, I think I'm just going to get a room in that place there. He was trying to invite me out with his buddy to do some fishing in a park, state park, the fucking campground that wasn't there, near a river that wasn't there. I checked with the girl that worked the counter in that gas station. Anything around here? She's like, oh. And she gave me a look like, get away from these people. She'd probably been meaning to turn them in for years. But so I drove down, I said, and I pulled into the motel right there, and the front door was open. It's a motel, any fine American motel where people may or may not own it, but they live there, and the office is hooked up to a living space. And I was at the door pounding on it at the office door, and I could see there was a living space in there, and TV was playing, but there was no one to be seen anywhere. And as I'm standing there, I saw that guy's truck, Sonny's truck, go by, and he pulled into the truck stop that was there right by the on-ramp. And I looked and I said, well, he saw me here getting a room. I don't see anybody in there. I don't know if he's with them or not. I hadn't seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre yet. And as soon as I saw him pull in there, like he was looking for another fucking victim or something, a different gas station, I said, fuck it. I got on my bike and I hit the fucking road and I got on the goddamn, the freeway heading east. I think it was on I-80, heading out of Carlin, Nevada. I saw the motel next to the bars. Saw the motel next to the bar as I was heading toward the on-ramp. It was getting dark. I was ready to give up on camping. I came right back out, got on my bike. Pulling out of the parking lot, Sonny was driving by. There it is. He honked and pulled into the gas station. I pulled onto the highway and saw what looked like I got the hell out of there. He was pulling over for me. Saw what looked like a clump of trees 2 to 3 miles east on 80 in the middle of a field, a shadow unto itself. And there was an off-ramp. As I got off from the exit ramp, I turned right onto the service road, heading back the direction I'd come, toward the trees. You have to get around and come back to it. Cigarette went out. About a half mile down a dirt road, turned left off the service road, going directly toward the trees. Right away, I had to drive up and over the railroad tracks, which were elevated and ran adjacent to the freeway. I read the sign bearing the words, "Private crossover, not intended for public use." Hesitated and continued. I needed sleep. I've been on the road for hours and hours and hours on a motorcycle, and nobody really knows until you've been on the road for, I've done 27-hour stretches, 22-hour stretches. Nobody knows until you've been on the road that long how your mind starts to tweak, and you just know you need to stop. It was pretty well dark now, everything coated in dark grays and black, so that the only colors to be seen were provided by my headlight, green and brown. The dirt in the trail was quickly being overcome, and then I've got a couple pages in here with stuff written in pencil, which means something different. They were being overcome by the weeds as the dirt road devolved into a 2-track. Weeds growing high in the center and to either side of me, as the field was unfarmed. I came upon a field mouse, and it tried to escape me, following the light I cast from my headlight on the motorcycle. It ran in front of me. It was just it kept trying to get away, but it couldn't because it's stuck only running where it can see, which is very dangerous. Sometimes you need to run into the darkness if you're going to survive the evil. I would run the fucker over if I was an asshole. If I happened to be. If I was. I may be now. That would be were. Although it ran quickly and I puttered along slowly, I still encroached. After only a short race, the mouse knew it couldn't win and scampered off to the right and into the weeds, which were the field. See, at this point, you think this horrific story nobody's ever heard is just about some guy following a mouse down the road in the dark as its light is quickly fading. But it's not. There's more. I wouldn't have hit him. I wouldn't have. See what I have to go through? Years ago, I used to write upside down and backwards. And so when you see me going through this fat little notebook, it's all turned around because you don't want somebody stealing your stuff. $30,000. This has been copyrighted because it's been said. You gonna steal my stuff? We'll talk about it, but the beginning of the conversation comes, $30,000. I don't know why I picked that number. It sounds fair. I wouldn't have hit him. Weeds were growing over the ruts that were the road now, until there was no dirt left, and the path petered out and completely disappeared by the time I reached the dried out riverbed. That's an arroyo. That's Spanish, a dried out riverbed, an arroyo, one that during the raining seasons fills with water and floods and just pours a torrential river. But outside of that, you feel safe because there's no water in it. With my flashlight, I could guess that it had been months since the trench had carried any water. The mud had dried out, cracked, and turned up like scales. I walked down into and across the 10-foot swath to go check out what I had previously believed to be a clump of trees 35 to 40 yards in front of me, shining the ground in front of me back and forth for snakes. I felt very conspicuous. Remember, Sonny was back there with his camping buddy and his wife was on the way. I was on private property. As I walked, I thought, if there were people out here that guarded their property like my father, I could possibly be shot. What? Oh. It started. I swung my light to the sound, less than 6 feet away. Nothing there, nothing moving. Could have been a raccoon hiding there in the knee-high weeds. The sound was too big to be a rattler. I rationalized it, started moving again, and realized I was there. There was no clump of trees. There was but one huge willow spreading its branches high and wide from the massive sectioned trunk, walking around on the packed dirt floor beneath its branches. I saw that nothing grew here. Maybe, I thought later, it was rather that nothing lived there. Still in the dirt, I walked by about an 8-foot by 4 8-foot 1x4, and an aged, beat-up canvas tennis shoe. There was a tennis shoe there by that tree. Outside the canopy, there was some scattered litter. Someone had been here. I wondered if they still were. What? Oh, in the weeds off to the side. I shined my light. Nothing. This time I realized the weeds weren't even against my pack, against the tree, and that would elevate my head. The weeds weren't even swaying from the movement. And in order to get here, it was this time from last time. It would have had to have circumvented me completely. And why didn't I hear it before that? Whatever. It could have just been another one. I climbed up into the tree to find the best place to sling my hammock, then went back to my bike. I drove my bike down the 18-inch embankment into the riverbed to lower its profile. I grabbed what I'd need, left the rest in a plastic bag wedged in the face piece of my bike, and headed. It was a 1985 Honda, one of those cafe racers, Nightwing, red colored. And I headed back to my tree, still bitching about the mosquitoes that had swarmed me. The closer I got to the tree, the less they bothered me, until they finally left me alone entirely once under the tree. Reviewing my sleeping arrangements, I realized my hammock wasn't gonna work. I decided that I could lean against my pack against the tree, and that would elevate my head in the top of my sleeping bag enough to keep snakes out. I had just laid out my bag and was beginning to undress when 10 feet away, nothing. I was getting pretty quick with the light. I decided against letting a raccoon eat my face in my sleep and reformulated the tree thing. The willow branched 4 ways and the trunk was wide enough for me to sleep in its crotch with only my lower legs hanging over the edge. I went and got the board I'd seen earlier and propped it against the tree. I set my pack on the board so my feet would be level with my body and put my leather at the other side of the tree as a pillow for my head. I unrolled my sleeping bag over it all and unlaced my boots. Walking to the edge of the desolate, impotent ground created by the tree's selfish canopy, I looked up at the multitude of stars burning away their existence. I felt an affinity for them. The only artificial light here was contained by the freeway a ways to my back, and with no clouds to obscure the stars, I felt I could see most of them. I thought of how it was too bad I couldn't feel safe sleeping on the ground under them. Another train rolled noisily past, muffled a piece, and I turned my back and climbed into the tree. I undressed and wiggled into the bag. It was 10:30 p.m. when I closed my eyes, finally settled. What the hell is that sound? Nothing moving. I grabbed the light lying beside me as I sat bolt upright. There was nothing to be seen as I panned the light thoroughly across the field in front of me. I sat quietly like that with the light off for a few minutes, hoping to catch it moving. Nothing. Realizing it might lie in hiding as long as it could see me like that, I laid back with my eyes open and waited. Screw it. I closed my eyes and heard the voices of men in conversation out by my motorcycle. I fought the urge to reveal myself, knowing I had my keys in my pants, and if they really wanted it, they could have my bag of stuff or the helmet hanging from the handlebars. I could do without that stuff. Then I heard my bag of stuff fall off the bike. I couldn't take it anymore. I would just explain my situation. If they were owners of the property, they shouldn't have any problem with me just sleeping in their tree for the night. Unless they were like my dad, and I haven't run into anybody to this day that's like my dad. Hey, I'm over here, I said, as I shined the light back to the arroyo, the dried out riverbed. My bike was there, but that was all. I saw no one anywhere around it. I couldn't see any reason for someone to hide from me out here in the middle of nowhere, especially if there were at least two of them. As far as they knew, they could have killed me at their leisure. I dug into my pants pocket for my jackknife that Mother got me for Christmas in 1993, regretting having so stupidly left my switchblade in the bag on my motorcycle. Oh, that changes the story I once told before. I laid back and listened on with my eyes closed to the rumble of metal and machinery as another train rolled west. At least this way, I thought. I can't hear anything moving around out there. I wondered if that was really a blessing or some curse that would allow something to sneak up on me. I opened my eyes to look around, the green rotted face hovering above me, with bloody pus seeping out from between its broken teeth and split lips toward my neck. Wasn't there like I'd expected. Nothing was there or in the field. I thought maybe the spooking was over. Just as I laid back, closed my eyes, and began to relax, knife in one hand, flashlight in the other, with my finger on the button, the board supporting my backpack and feet started shaking like a son of a bitch. Hey, look, I'm in this tree. I'm in this tree. Look, I went back some years later through there an hour earlier and got the hell out of there as soon as I started again. I did. There's the tree. There's the tree. Look at that. That board right down there, that was still there when I went back in 2001 to check out the region. That's what it looks like when you're lying in the crotch of the tree, looking straight up. And that's some woman in the gas station. She didn't want her picture taken. But it's all there. It's all there. The board supporting my backpack and feet started shaking like a son of a bitch, as if by its own volition. I'm laying there, my legs are shaking because the board's getting climbed up. Thinking something was climbing the board, I sat up, shining the light. Nothing on the board. Nothing running across the dirt to the weeds. Nothing causing the weeds to move. Nothing. It was almost as if something had seeped into the board and caused it to move. It felt like the energy had come from the board itself. Ha! The call is coming from inside the house. It's easier to do now with cell phones. Now, I've always kind of believed in the possibility of ghosts and even had a couple previous experiences with them. Or why they always need to be so pissed off and malevolent towards me, I may never know. And I've always arrogantly believed there is no reason to be afraid of them, that they can be reasoned with, as do most people in their daylight mundanity. But I gotta tell you, this thing was freaking the shit out of me. I started thinking about how it only bothered me as I got near the tree, and how the mosquitoes quit following me as I got closer to the tree. This was a plus. It was almost as if it was protecting the tree, coveting it, jealous of anybody else being in it. But why wouldn't it be in the tree if the tree was it? I began to think that maybe someone had been hung in the tree and didn't know how to leave it. Then I got pissed off. Scared and freaked out as I was, I had spent 45 minutes screwing around getting this tree ready to sleep, and that's what I meant to do. I figured whatever this present was, it hadn't hurt me yet, so it probably wouldn't. Then again, it was getting closer and closer and had manifested itself physically. Maybe it was giving me a chance to leave, but was slowly running out of patience. I resolved to stay and expected nightmares at the very least as I lay there with the 3-inch spike of wood poking up into my back. There was a piece of wood that came up from the crotch of that tree into my back, but I slept on it. Unavoidable, uncomfortable, but comfort has never been a prerequisite of sleep for me. Sleep is probably the only thing I've ever been really good at. Lying there going to sleep, I half expected to wake up in the morning to see the tree's branches filled with rope dancers. Dozens of bodies dangling in different degrees of decomposition, all crook-necked and staring at me with edemic eyes, twisting in the wind, ropes creaking and banal, boring. Death is often boring after it's been accomplished. Then the soft popping eyeball bursting above me, dripping its cold jelly on my face. I've eaten a goat's eye in China. It's robbery. And as I struggle to release myself from the sleeping bag engulfing me, I hear other eyeballs popping and coating me in their drizzle, gelatinous soup. I look up to see lips stretching into a twisted grin just before the head exploded and the neck slides through the rope as what's left of the rotted corpse lets its weight down upon me. I notice the shreds of flesh still stuck to the rope for no reason apparently. Time speeds back up as the other heads explode in succession and bodies flail, bouncing off branches like plinko and bruise me. Bob Barker, The Price is Right. How about a game of plinko with corpses? They bruise me, fracture my bones, and dogpile on me. The next unwary traveler would find an old-timer jackknife open and half covered in the dirt and look up to see me in my sleeping bag like a giant worm hanging there with the others. That could have been 30 years down the road. Who knows how often someone stops to sleep in that damn tree? I don't know if anybody ever has. I dreamt all night. I was working the shitty job I had just quit. But when I woke at 3:30 a.m., there were no bodies. I tried to go back to sleep until 3:45 and decided I may as well get an early start. I walked to the edge of the woods, the weeds, and took a piss, which I really need to do right now. While I enjoyed that, I looked out across the field and up at the stars, cold like the night. I finished walking to the tree over my nervousness and decided there was nothing goofier out there than small animals in my imagination. I pulled my sleeping bag out of the tree and knelt down. You know what? This thing's going a lot longer than I expected it to. I figure you probably need to grab a cigarette and watch a Looney Tunes cartoon for war bonds. You can buy stock and support the military in this war that we're fighting. That sort of thing. I don't know. I'm looking at the stars. I think I see Mars. Remember, here I am in the middle of the night. I've been dealing with some weird things between humanity and H.P. Lovecraft, as it would turn out. When I read Lovecraft later, this all fits into the idea of the things he says he just wrote about. He doesn't believe them. I say, you know exactly what you were writing about. You have seen these things, H.P. Lovecraft. And who's to say? But there is a reason we fear the dark. It's because there are men out there. Took my sleeping bag out of the tree and knelt down to roll it up. I don't know how to write the noise, but it was then that something sounding very, very big came crashing and charging toward me from the field behind me. Something, an obvious big thing stomping in a fast pace, coming up behind me after I was just thinking everything was okay and I imagined it all. I had made sense with reason and it did not like it. It stands against reason and it needs a witness. It was very, very big, came crashing and charging toward me from the field behind me. I leapt into the tree, grabbed the light and shined it into the field where the thing was. The weeds swayed uniformly with the wind, but betrayed nothing. And whatever it was that had come stomping up behind me was just too fucking big to be hiding like a possum in the weeds. Something that big with that much purpose had no reason to hide it, could have easily torn me limb from limb, provided it could have caught me. Deliberation. Deliberately, I moved at a regular pace, getting dressed, tying my boots, and stuffing my things into my bag. I aborted the notion of rolling my sleeping bag. I thought that if it believed I was afraid, that might provoke an attack. I really am this cool. That's in parentheses. I must have been happy with my writing at that point. Something coming at you and you're just like, just act natural. That'll do more for you than you'll ever realize. Act natural. People don't like people that act natural. They back off a little bit. I took my things and walked back to my bike and was surprised to see that everything was still on it. See, here's where you question your fucking sanity in an insane world, in a place where you are very unwell rested. You need sleep. You've been passing in between the reality of reality and the reality of dreaming, and somewhere in between there are things out there that can scare the hell out of your reality. And then you look and you say, did that happen? I don't know. And then somebody says, I believe you believe it. Back to my bike and was surprised to see that everything was still on it. Even the bag I heard fall off the night before I did. As luck would have it, my choke is fucked up on my motorcycle, and so in perfect horror movie tradition, it wouldn't start. When I finally got it started and tried to get it turned around, the wheel just spun in the dry riverbed. I got it, I get off it, and am trying to pull it for what seemed an eternity, all the while completely spooked and expecting to have my spine dissembled at any moment. I finally got turned around and gunned it up over the bank. I took no extra time getting the hell out of there and didn't bother looking back. I stopped at the next exit under a street lamp in front of a gold mine to resituate my things. I wondered if it would follow me and saw no sign of it. About 60 miles away, I showered, ate, and fueled up at a truck stop. I asked the hostess if she had ever heard of a haunted tree. She hadn't, but thought I was weird. I don't know what I should have expected. Not many people sleep in trees. Probably even fewer survive. I'm sorry. I didn't see this thing. There were things around me, and when I went back 5 years later and stopped by that tree and rode out there just as the sun started setting, because I was there an hour earlier the next time. I just had to get pictures of this damn thing and look around. The noises started again. And it's at the beginning, right there near the beginning of the Hastings cutoff. So I wonder how many people have been hanged in that tree just because they didn't have enough food or water to get, they didn't have enough water to get them far enough to where they could die of dehydration and still be, not faminated, still make a good meal. You gotta pick your fucking counterparts. Who knows what goes on there at the beginning there of the Hastings cutoff? Nobody ever really knows what somebody else sees. But I did, years later, read H.P. Lovecraft, and he spoke of these things out in the wild places in the emptiness that come running up on you, and they're giant and unseen. And he talks about how they have a scent to them. Me, I've never been able to smell flowers my whole life. Never been a coke fiend. It can't be accused of that. I just, my sense of smell is weak. So if these things that H.P. Lovecraft, J.D. Lovecraft, H.P. Vance, whatever the hell his name is, this guy that lies to you and says he knows nothing, he probably knows a little bit more than all of us. Remember, hey, nothing terrible happened in this story, and it's too bad. It's just like being on recon. The best recon missions are never heard about because on recon you're not supposed to be spotted. In horror stories, you're supposed to be dead. But I'm not. I make decisions. I find my way out of places. But know this. This is Judas reading. And the closer to death you come, the closer you come to death.